Welcome to the Sound Like Us podcast, where we get the bedroom rock stars out of the bedroom, out into the world to hopefully get them the recognition they deserve. During the interview, we get to know an artist by asking them about how important music is to them, from how their early life shaped the musician they became, to live music, to their first foray into writing and producing music, and what they have planned for the future. Please like, follow, share and subscribe in all the usual places, so Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Instagram, YouTube, etc. A big thank you to everyone that has done so already. Please spread the word far and wide to your friends, family and even that annoying prick you sit next to at work. If you like the podcast, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform that you use, as this helps give the algorithm a big old slap in the chops and gets these musicians even more of the exposure they deserve. If you're a musician, singer-songwriter, rapper, producer, DJ, MC, or even, God forbid, a drummer, and you fancy joining me on the podcast, please don't hesitate to get in touch and we will get you on. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show. Welcome to the Sound Like Us podcast, and to today's guest, Canadian singer-songwriter Gabriel Minnikin. Gabriel, good afternoon, or good morning to you, and welcome to Sound Like Us.
Well, yeah, thank you for having me, and good afternoon to you. It is the AM here. Thank you for saying
Yeah. All right, so let's have a bit of the beginning by having you tell people about yourself.
Sure. I'm a singer-songwriter. From Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada, here on the East Coast. I'm a maritimer who has, I guess, blood from the UK. My granddad was born in Middlesbrough.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, my mum's from Carlisle, which is not too far from Middlesbrough, but it's sort of the other side, the other coast. It's on the west coast.
Right,
So
right.
kind of know it. Right. So how did the music that your parents listened to influence you while growing up?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'd always have the record player, the hi-fi, if you will, was always spinning. We always had the band, a lot of the Canadian band, the Beatles, James Taylor, Aretha Franklin, like all kinds of great music to grow up.
Yeah. So were there any specific artists that sort of stood out to you at that time, or?
Yeah, well, all of them did. I think they all probably influenced me. There's always a lot of old soul, a lot of old Sam Cooke or R&B, if you will. I don't know what R&B is considered these days, but I consider Aretha Franklin and Sam Cooke to be that's R&B, I think.
So can you share how your background in Nova Scotia, where you were born and grew up, and how that helps shape your musical journey?
Yeah, well, my Nana was in the church, and she had a church voice, sang in the choir and stuff. So, she also an organ and a piano that had kind of like one bench that would separate the two of them, so I could play both the organ and the piano at the same time, just like sitting on the same bench kind of. And so it was nice having that. I didn't know what I was doing at the time. I probably wasn't making anything worth listening to, but she would always encourage me. My dad played guitar and was in a band when I was young.
Yeah.
And my mom too, played auto harp, and all my uncles and aunts and everybody seemed to be musical. My sister, Ruth.
You were in the band with your sister, Ruth, the Guthries.
That's right. Yeah. Ruth was signed to EMI Canada in a different group she was in. They were all, I think, teenagers at the time. I remember my parents having to sign the record contract because she was a minor. And then after that, the band called it a day and then formed another band. And then that was the band that I was a member of, which was the Guthries. And so her and I then started touring together making music together.
Cool. Very cool. So is there a specific piece of music that transports you back to another time or place? Maybe something brings back vivid memories or emotions?
Oh gosh, sure. Well, a lot of the band was heavy in my house growing up. So anytime I hear the band, I'm back to being kind of a little boy. Bob Dylan, lots of Bob Dylan, lots of the band, Joni Mitchell, Aretha Franklin, Sam Cooke, all those artists. As soon as I hear those, I remember where I was, a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly it's like a time machine effect, isn't it? Really. Who would you say are your main influences? The ones like your top three influences. Who would they be?
Oh gosh, I do love me some Willie Nelson.
Mm,
I do love Lucinda Williams as well. I could listen to Willie Nelson and Lucinda Williams all day long. Well, sometimes I do.
yeah.
And then who would be another third one? Gosh, I don't know. I never get tired of Townes Van Zandt. He's
Mm,
always up there for me.
yeah.
I would say, yeah, I don't know. I would probably somehow be inspired by that. I imagine I have a little bit of Townes, Lucinda, and Willie somewhere in my music.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely works its way through there, doesn't it? So,
Yeah.
like talking of that, do you go through a particular process to work those influences into your music?
No, I don't. Nothing.
No.
It's no, not that's intentional. If it happens and then someone points it out to me, then I'll think about it and then
Yeah.
be like, oh yeah, that does sound a bit like something that I do like. You know?
Yeah. Something that it's almost like a bit of a coincidence more than anything else.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Now I've got a bit of a random question for you.
Sure.
If you could take if you could take anyone to any gig in history by any artist, A, who would you take? B, what gig would it be? And why would you take that person to that gig?
Gosh,
Nice little
man.
curve.
Yeah. Well, both these artists have passed on,
Mm,
but one of them was my friend, and one of them, well, they were both artists, but I would take my mate Joe Rose to a Sparkle Horse concert.
okay.
I've seen Sparkle Horse, I don't know, maybe two or three times, and I don't
Yeah.
know if my mate Joe ever got an opportunity to see Sparkle Horse, but he was definitely a fan
Yeah. That would be quite special for him.
for sure.
What is the first piece of music that you ever wrote? Do you remember?
The first piece of music that I ever wrote. Well, some of my first ever songs were made it onto a Guthries record, actually, and
Really?
yeah, I had written poetry uh, a lot before that, and I had written maybe pieces of music before, but hadn't ever, made them a song, put them together
Yeah.
before. So, yeah, that was probably in the back in the 1900s. Back around maybe 90, 98, 97, 98,
Yeah.
99, something like that.
Okay. So, can you remember how it felt the first time that you created something? Do you remember how that felt?
Yeah, yeah. It was, like, I think I felt that it was just as good as anything else that,
Yeah.
was being made at the time. So
Mm.
I was pleasantly surprised that, well, that's not that bad.
I wish we could all say that. So, how did you come to be living in Manchester then? Was it the weather and the amazing food too much of a draw?
Yeah, that's right. No, I think it was through our then record label Circus 65 that was run by a
Okay.
bloke called Mick Spencer, and Mick Spencer owned Circus 65 Records out of Leicester, and then he
Mm.
was in cahoots with other men up and down the UK who called
Mm.
themselves the Cosmic American Music Group.
Okay.
And the Cosmic American Music Group would bring over American bands and Canadian bands, and pretty much, from Plymouth to Port Mahomet and everywhere in between, you'd get a tour, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And there were these men everywhere. So in Manchester, Mark Whitfield of Americana UK was in the Whirl in Liverpool there. And I don't know
Yeah.
if he got us the show in Manchester or how we got the show in Manchester. Maybe it was through Mick Spencer from the label. I'm not sure. But
Yeah.
I did a couple tours of the UK before I moved there. So I had already been
Okay.
there a few times, and then I have mates that were pulling me from like Glasgow or London, and then um, I really dug the Manchester scene that I
Mm.
experienced up until that point. So I didn't go with London or Glasgow. stuck with my gut, which was Manchester. Yeah.
So what was it about the Manchester music scene that you enjoyed so much?
So again, being like kind of your upbringing, right? Like when you're
Yeah.
getting turned getting turned on to music that's maybe not your parents' music, right? You're getting turned on to
Mm.
music that's not, you're finding music that that you think is you found it and it means something to you and is like special.
Yeah.
It's not your parents haven't turned you on to this. So I mean, like a lot of music was coming out of Manchester in the day. It always had cool architecture and
Yeah.
its history with art and music and just the vibe
Yeah,
and the
it's a
energy.
fantastic city. It really is. I don't
Yeah.
like the football teams so much, but the music, the Stone Roses, the Happy Mondays, Oasis.
Right.
You could
Yeah,
go on. You could even go far back into the past. People like the Smiths,
that's right.
Herman's
Yeah.
Hermits, and it's
Herman's
incredible.
Hermits.
And you're
That's
not.
right.
Yeah, I know some things about it, and you're not too far from Liverpool as
Yeah.
well, so
Yeah.
you could always pop down there and see the bands from there, like the Lars and whoever, if you can find Lee Mavers,
Exactly.
that is. But
Yeah.
so, do you remember the first concert that you went to?
Oh boy. Now you're asking the first concert I ever went to with my parents or as my own kind of
Both.
being. Okay. So first one I went with my sister and I would attend bluegrass festivals and country folk festivals as
Mm.
children with our parents because sometimes my uncles and my father would be performing. So I do have memories of being at bluegrass festivals as a child, but then being taken to a concert, maybe Steve Earle when he had Guitar Town. When the
Wow.
Guitar Town record came out, I went to that with my dad.
Hmm.
Um, I also went to the Copperhead Road tour that came after that. So those are two of my first concerts with my dad.
Mm.
And then as myself going with the lads, if you will, was Anthrax opening up for Iron Maiden.
Wow.
And that yeah.
That's about as
So that
different
was
as you could
I think
get.
yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Although all of those artists are pretty badass.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, Steve Earle for your first ever concert. I don't think you can
Yeah.
beat that, really. Where was the first
Yeah,
live
it's
performance that
pretty
you did yourself?
first live performance I did as myself as Gabriel Minnikin without a group.
Yeah, just the
Uh,
first one, whichever.
Gosh, I don't know now, because Sister Ruth and we would actually for our aunts and our uncles before we were our parents and whatnot before we were able to play musical instruments, we would have like we would lip sync and mime, like
Yeah.
to pop songs, like to like Madonna or Michael Jackson or some shit,
Yeah.
and so like I don't know.
Hairbrush in the bathroom. Yeah.
Yeah, like we would
Hmm.
do these lip sync concerts. But then maybe after that, probably with the Guthries, maybe that was my first kind of learning to play in front of audiences, kind of experience. And then after the Guthries, I don't know. I think I moved to the UK in that same year, and maybe my first show was at the Britain's Protection in Manchester solo.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Wow. That's a hell of a place to do your first solo show. Wow. Looking back over the gigs that you've done, which would you say is your best performance?
Performance. Oh gosh,
Mm.
I can't ever say that because like sometimes being I abstain from alcohol and drugs. So
Yeah.
when there was a time I didn't do that, I thought that lots of times that the experiences I had in my head, as I remembered my memories, I'm thinking to myself, "Oh man, that was the best! I had such a good time that night. It was so everything sounded great. I performed well, and then
Yeah.
somehow somebody whereas has documented it, you get to
Mhm.
listen to it or watch, and then your memories are just like, oh,
Yeah. I
that's
don't
not how
remember
I
doing that.
remembered it. So exactly. So
I'm
I don't
sure
know,
my
like the
trousers
best.
stayed on. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't know if my best ever performance. I don't know. Maybe that one's still yet to come.
Yeah. That's probably the best way to look at it. You want to put your 100% into your next concert and think, oh, this is going to be the best gig.
Yes.
So, is there a particular venue that stands out as a favourite of yours to act?
Oh gosh. Particular venue, the Manchester Cathedral. I supported Mark Lanigan
Wow.
there once. He was performing with Isabel Campbell and
Yeah.
Mark Lanigan when they were doing their.
Yeah.
So that was a beautiful cathedral. Union Chapel in London. That's a beautiful venue I've played. I did one of these castle concerts with Jules Holland. It was like a Jules Holland picnic thing. That was extraordinary as well. I don't know. Just beautiful venues. Yeah.
What was the Jules Holland thing? Was that like a kind of mini festival or? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. There was a castle behind us.
Mhm.
It was outdoors. So it was outdoors and I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was just the grounds to this castle or if it
Yeah.
was some sort of other kind. But it was just a massive piece of land that just went on as far as the eye can see. And it was a picnic. So it was in the middle of the day. And all of the
Let's have a look.
attendees, I don't know, there must have been like 10,000 people there or
Yeah.
more. And they all brought picnic.
Wow.
They all brought tables and chairs and picnics. And I think that's what it was called. I think it was called Jules Holland's Picnic or something like that.
Yeah, it says here Jules Holland's Big Picnic. Doesn't say where though.
Right. Yeah.
It sounds cool though.
Yeah.
Be able to play at a castle, that's incredible. That.
Yeah.
I've lost myself now. So we're back. You were in the critically acclaimed band, the Guthries. How was that
I was.
period of success? What was it like being in that band?
Oh, we were really young. My sister was even younger when she was signed to EMI. I didn't have anything to compare it to. We worked hard. We all lived together. We toured together. We worked together. We wrote songs together. We were always together. We were always together.
Yeah.
While we were together, we were very fortunate to have some good breaks and the momentum of us, continually to try and be prolific meant we got to do a lot. But at the time, there wasn't really very many younger bands doing what we were doing at that time.
Yeah.
So it felt pretty special.
Yeah, I'm just reading here that Mick Spencer helped you get interviews with people like Bob Harris and the BBC and interviews in album reviews in Mojam and stuff. What was it like meeting people like Bob Harris, for instance? Who's a bit of a legend.
Well, he is a bit of a legend, but I mean, like, I grew up on the old Great Whistle Test, but that's me. I've got British, it'd be Benny Hill, and like the Two Ronnies and stuff like that. So I knew who Bob Harris was, but I mean, Bob Harris is a legend. He's a living legend. And so I feel I have that and all the time I've spent in Oxfordshire as well, because that's where he's from, or at least where he hangs his hat. But it wasn't lost on me that I was being interviewed or meeting a legend, and I've also since then done interviews with his wife and his son. I want to say Trudy, or what's his son's name? This is my cat. This is a boy named Sue.
Hello, Sue. Yeah.
There he goes. Mick Spencer helped us out with a lot of that. He would get us the press. We do BBC interviews up and down the country, and we do. I think Tim Perry he wrote for Uncut, and also I think got us on that compilation disc. That compact that used to come with the magazine.
Yeah.
So that was he booked the Windmill in Brixton, and that was one of our first places we played in London. Was also because of Tim Perry. Uncut.
The Windmill in Brixton is one of my wife's favourite pubs. Just to put that out there.
Oh yeah,
it's great.
Seamus used to own it, I think, or maybe still does. He used to have two dogs that were on the top there. So as soon as you walk in the main doors of the Windmill, there was two dogs on the roof that would look down over top of you. At least that's the way it was in the day.
Yeah. I'll ask the wife if they're still there.
Yeah, I used to love. Yeah, yeah. They used to be famous. I don't know if they were Rottweilers or pit bulls or whatever they were, but you get slobbered on you.
Oh yeah. So another curveball question: if you could save 5 albums by
other artists from a burning building, which ones are you going for?
My word, gosh. Yeah, I'd probably have to stick with some of those classic records that I said earlier. Just like, can't get enough of Sam Cooke, can't get
Mm.
enough of Aretha Franklin, can't get enough of the band. Have to probably take some Bob Dylan. And some Ruth Minnikin with me. I'd have to take Ruth Minnikin record too.
Yeah, you got to say your sister, definitely. So, out of all of your songs that you've written, which is your favourite to perform live?
Oh wow. Favorite to perform live. Oh gosh, solo maybe. Well, I have a song I wrote a couple years ago called Canada, and it's about Canada and kind of Canadian I guess stereotypes that are true. And so I like performing that usually as a sing along way to end the show because the chorus is simply just spelling out Canada.
Okay.
So that's usually a good way to end a solo show and a show with a band. However, with a band, sometimes something, I don't know. I recently had a co-write with an artist here in Canada, and I've been digging playing that song with the band as the last song. And that one's called Egg McMinnikin.
Egg McMinnikin.
Tongue in cheek. Yeah, it was written over the song. The song was written over breakfast. I made this other songwriter breakfast, and we wrote the song over breakfast. So I've been having fun with the band playing Egg McMinnikin last again, kind of like a last song. So I guess one of those songs, Canada or Egg McMinnikin.
Cool. What are your earliest memories of recording? Any studios that you used to go to, or any sort of other places you used to go to do your recording?
Oh yeah, I've had a lot of good recording experiences. Well, I recorded my first record in a studio called The Mullet, and that was in a really small attic, kind of in an old building in downtown Halifax. That was really cool. I did some recording in Spain in someone's kind of personal studio. It was a recording studio, but in their home, and it was a beautiful home. So it was a really unique recording studio there. I also recorded this guy. He was reluctant to tell me who he had recorded in the past, but it turned out he had produced Aqua and S Club 7.
Wow. That, I was just going to say, that's my brother's
recording in his
music collection right there. Sorry. I'm not lying.
Man, well, that's okay. Well, your brother would appreciate the fact that I got to be produced by this guy.
I would tell him that. I think he might be embarrassed that I've said that. I'm going to put it on the internet, but it's his fault. So, is there a track of yours that carries a deep personal meaning for you?
Oh, sure, yeah. Well, off of my new record, the song Navy Blue, we were talking earlier about my granddad coming from Middlesbrough, and he became a merchant marine and master mariner and sailed the seas all of his life as soon as he left Middlesbrough, pretty much. And I seem to have somehow, not deliberately, but have somehow followed in his footsteps. I am a sailor. So, I wrote the song Navy Blue kind of loosely based on my granddad's experiences as a young sailor and my experiences.
Okay. So what do you do yourself when it comes to sailing? Do you?
I work on a vessel here in the Halifax harbor. You mean, well, my position on the boat is engineer, deckhand. So I am an engineer deckhand. It's a 4-person crew. I have a mate above me and then the captain above him. Yeah. So it's captain, mate, engineer, deckhand.
That must be a really, really cool job to do. So you worked with previous podcast guest, Danny George of Danny and the Chip World, and Grant Drive, and future podcast guests. Technology doesn't fail me again like it did yesterday. Robert Bennett of the Dreaming Spires. What was it like working with them?
Incredible. That came again from the 90s. Yeah, Danny was in Drive then. Green Spires were Gold Rush then. We were all very young doing the same thing, just in different countries. So when our paths did cross, it was really cool, and we've remained friends ever since. So for about 25 years or more.
That's great. And you're obviously playing the Betsy Trotwood in September with Danny in the Champions of the World. I need to try and get down to that gig.
Yes, you do.
It's one of London's best pubs. Yeah, I'd love to. So, have you got any funny tales to tell of Danny and Robin from back in the days?
Funny tales to tell.
Forecast-
No, they're just extraordinary people. The Bennetts have always been really good to me over the years. Every one of them, Deborah and Edmund, mom and dad Bennett, they are individually unique and creative, wonderful souls, and they produced wonderful children. Chris is a mathematician. He used to be a mathematician up in Manchester. I'm not sure if he is anymore. Katie Rose Bennett, she sings her songs in Birmingham. And Joseph and Robin Bennett, who have always been my mates, always included me in everything that they've always done. Wood festivals, truck festivals, September festivals. We've recorded in their studio on the farm, Steventon. They're fantastic people.
Yeah, I chatted yesterday with Robin for about 2.5 minutes before the internet failed me. So yeah, he's a lovely guy, and we will get him back on the podcast again at some point. Yeah, Danny was fantastic as well, and he only lives just down the road from me, so I'm going to go and visit his record store to check it out, shake his hand. He's someone I've admired for a long time. I love the fact that sort of led me to yourself, and to the Dream Inspires.
Yes.
You know, it's amazing the great history you've got there.
It really is.
So talking of great legends as well, you worked with Emmylou Harris.
No, I never. I have a couple Emmylou Harris stories, but I didn't get to work with Emmylou Harris. The Guthries, when we were on that uncut CD that came with the magazine, we were in between Merle Haggard and Emmylou Harris. It was like Merle Haggard, the Guthries, Emmylou Harris. And my mind was kind of like blown because of Graham Parsons and all the Emmylou songs that she sung on. And the Merle Haggard song that he was singing was "If I Could Fly," so that opened me up to Blaze Foley, who wrote "If I Could Only Fly." And, so just like what you're saying, to the point that you made earlier, music just keeps on turning you on to great things. So that's the connection with Emmylou Harris. I also blagged my way into a Emmylou Harris interview in Austin, Texas, totally by accident.
Yeah, go on. Tell us about that then.
It was when you're a performing artist at South by Southwest, all your band members will get a bracelet. However, there's only one all access to everything pass, and only one person can use it at one time. So Emmylou Harris and Buddy Miller were giving a talk first thing in the morning. It was early. It was like maybe 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning in a hotel. No one in the group wanted to use the pass at that hour. So I was like, I'm going to go see Emmylou Harris get interviewed at this hotel. But I stood in the wrong queue. Honestly, just by accident. The queue for punters was back there, and then the queue for media was like the first 3 rows were for media, and I was standing in the media queue. And so when they let everybody into the room, I was in the first 3 rows only by accident, because I was a journalist, I guess, that day or something. But that's when cell phones and mobiles had just come out too, and I had my first so I pretended like I was official. I had like a phone, and like I was like a journalist. So that's my other Emmylou Harris story. I've seen her a couple times perform. She's always amazing. She was just right here last summer, I think, at the Jazz Festival.
Yeah, she's definitely a legend. What is the most memorable moment of a live show? Like any particular sort of crowd reaction, or an incident, or personal connection, something that's sort of felt magic in the moment?
Wow. Good question. Magic in the moment. Well, magic in the moment. Yeah, there's lots of magic happening, and inspiration and being aware that inspiration is happening. So magic in the moment. A good one would be recently when I released my new album. My new album is called Anne Lorraine. Anne Lorraine is my wife. There's a part she performs. We perform together. So at the album launch of Anne Lorraine, the part of the song, she has two maracas in her hands, and we had before the show, I kind of have a cue, of when we're supposed to look at one another and something's supposed to happen, right? But during this moment, when the cue was, I knew it was supposed to happen. And so I look in her direction and she's just shaking those maracas and she's singing and like she missed the cue altogether, but she missed the cue because she was so involved with the magic of the moment. And that made me smile, made my heart smile. And so as of late, that would be a really good feel good moment.
Yeah, it's moments like that that kind of raise it to another level.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first song or album that you ever really connected with on a kind of deep level?
Connected with?
Do you remember the first song or album that you ever really connected with on quite a deep level?
Oh, gosh. I really connected with on another level. Gosh, there's been so many. I used to listen to old Delta blues, like pretty heavy. I everything about it, the graininess of the recordings, like they just sound so rough, like old demos, and the musicianship and the lyrics that sometimes didn't make any sense to me at all. I thought I I really got into old blues music at a young age, and that I think affected me. It made me appreciate old times and inspire me to create music that would be similar. Pink Floyd, The Wall. I went to some pretty crazy places into Pink Floyd, The Wall.
But yeah, those early blues. So you're talking about people like Robert Johnson and the likes of them. And
yeah, artists that I like. There'll be all these compilations, like compilation records or cassette tapes that would be like Alligator Records or Chess Record or these compilation records that were put out, and all the artists would be different, just as gritty and just as badass as the next, and and that's, I guess, and that's the opposite side of your Sam Cooks, that's all kind of like, don't know much about history, and stuff like that. Ray Charles, Stevie Wonder, all that kind of stuff.
absolutely heroes.
Yeah.
Are there any other bands or artists you enjoy playing with, singing live on the local Nova Scotian?
The local Nova Scotian scene here? Oh gosh, yeah. There's a crazy amount of talent here on the East Coast. It's ridiculous how much talent is here. We have every year here a thing called East Coast Music Awards, and that takes Newfoundland, Cape Breton, New Brunswick or New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, and Nova Scotia. Those maritime provinces have a thing called the East Coast Music Awards. Every year, they're in a different province around the Maritimes. And then there's the just specifically Nova Scotia Music Awards. Both of these things hire people from other countries to come here, look at our talents, come to our showcases, to then take them back to wherever they came from in the world and say, right, that band from Nova Scotia is pretty good. We'll have them in Australia. Yeah, that band's pretty good. We'll have them in.
Yeah, so it's a good idea because not very well known. That local scene is not that well known across the world.
True. It's getting out there more and more. That's what made the Guthries unique, to be doing what we were doing so young when we were doing it. The bands that were popular then doing what we were doing were like Calexico, Wilco, Handsome Family, Uncle Tupelo, Sean Volt, the Jayhawks, So we were around when those bands were popular, and the East Coast music scene has a lot of variety. There's a lot going on here.
Yeah, definitely. Are there any those bands and artists that you've collaborated with, either live or in the studio?
Yeah, I've crossed paths with Wilco at different festivals. The Bennetts. Robin will probably tell you this story. He brought the Jayhawks over to I don't know what festival it was, but that was awesome playing alongside the Jayhawks. So yeah, I guess just Wilco and the Jayhawks.
Okay, cool. So, what does the future hold for you, both in the short and the long term?
Oh, geez. I hope to continue having inspiration, being inspired by life experiences. If I am lucky enough to be prolific and continue creating art, then I would like to still carry on doing that. Getting out into the world is also important. Can't just be an artist and not be out there promoting your art, I feel. So I appreciate this opportunity very much. Thank you, because I have a tour coming up in UK and opportunities to promote a UK tour in September. I don't know how many of them I'm going to have. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
That's right. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to do it. Really appreciate that. And so that brings us to the end of the interview. Have you enjoyed it?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I hope you have as well.
I have very much. I've learned a lot. Each time I do one of these interviews, I find out so much. It's great to be able to chat to different people about their different stories and their backgrounds of what people out there making music, and it's really inspiring to someone like me. Tried and I wasn't very good at that, but I can do a podcast and stuff. So it's really great. I really appreciate it. So, have you got any gigs and tours you want to tell people about? You've got the tour coming up.
I have, yeah. I believe Monday, September, we're jumping ahead a few months, but Monday, September 15th, I'm playing at the Carlton Club in Manchester. Tuesday, the 15th, I am playing in Leeds at the Water Wharf or the Wharf Chamber. And Wednesday, the 13th, I believe I'm at the Betsy Trotwood in your neighborhood there in Clerkenwell in London. And then I'm going to go down, I'm going to go to Oxfordshire and play the September Songs Festival with hopefully Danny and the Dream.
So how can people reach you online? You want to tell people about your social media, your website, stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to hear my music or purchase my music, I always recommend Bandcamp, because Bandcamp pays artists, unlike your usual platforms that everybody else seems to use. So I use Bandcamp, and on Instagram, my handle is just Gabriel Minnikin Music. So music is at the end of my name, Gabriel Minnikin Music. And there's also links there to music and stuff you can follow.
Brilliant. So everybody go give Gabriel a share on all the social medias that he's got a presence on. Please like, share, follow, and subscribe to the Sounds Like Culture podcast on Instagram and YouTube. And finally, to play us out, it's Gabriel Minnikin with his new song, Ditch Grass. Gabriel, I just want to say a massive thank you for taking your time to do this today. It's been a brilliant interview. I've loved having you come on. I'd love to do it again sometime. Hopefully, my internet might actually decide to work. You can never count on that sort of thing. I'm going to try and come down to the gig down at the Betsy in September. I encourage everyone listening to go to it as well, and all the other gigs that Gabriel's there on his UK tour. Gabriel, it's been a pleasure having you come on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, mate. Cheers. I look forward to meeting you.
Yeah, too. Take care, my friend.
All the best.
Thunder honey whisper, a young heart grows mold. Ditch grass in the spring, bend beautiful and bold. Wrap your arms around me, hear the storm subside. Rainbows and gold as lightning strikes. Never mind the naysayers, rare rumors roar. Forgive the winter snake and the entitled boy. Rain dust a kiss to her, cinnamon falling stars. Trust the song